being part of Realtree now is just like a huge accomplishment. It's one of my best accomplishments, I feel like, in my life. One day we were out sailfishing, caught like a dozen sailfish off the coast, and then that night we went out and went alligator hunting and killed a 12-foot gator. And I'm like trying to grab my arrows, trying to knock them, and it was a timed event. It was 5 shots, and I'm up against T-Bone, which is one of the best shots in the game. I've had so many times the gators come up, bite holes in the bottom of the boat, start taking on water. It is an adrenaline rush like no other. I was in the direct path of Irma, so I'm like, oh gosh, I've been training for months for this elk hunt, freaking out. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna need one of you guys to plug these holes in this boat with your fingers, and I'm gonna oar as fast as I can back to land so we don't sink. I thought I gave him enough time, and then found him bedded up again and got another arrow in him, and he ran and jumped off a cliff. I meet a girl, or something that's like, wait, you hunt? I'm like, yep. This is Brett Cannon. You're listening to Living Country in the City, episode 39.
Y'all ready for your dose of flyover state spirit? Straight from the concrete jungle? Well, put down your latte and pull on your boots. It's time for Living Country in the City.
Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to episode 39 of Living Country in the City. As always, a big thank you to all y'all that are tuning in each week. Make sure you don't miss out on any episodes by searching for Living Country in the City on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your favorite podcast platform is, and subscribe. Also, if you want to make a huge difference and help the podcast grow, please take a quick moment to leave a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher. People ask me how I'm able to get so many great guests on the podcast, and well, a good part of it has to do with y'all. Each and every rating and review makes a significant impact on the podcast visibility, and that's a huge part on how I'm able to get these incredible guests week after week. So please take a moment, leave that rating and review, and make sure you're subscribed. Now, today I'm talking with Brett Cannon out of Parkland, Florida. Brett is a deep sea fisherman, a hunter, a guide, and generally just a crazy inspirational dude. I love following this guy online. He's always working his butt off and just has an incredible attitude, so I'm really excited to talk with him today. Brett, thanks for joining me on the call.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Hey, so I always like to start out with maybe just a little bit of background about you, how you got your start in, the outdoors, hunting and fishing and all of that.
Okay. Well, my family, my grandfather and my father were all hunters, fishermen, and in Texas. Well, my dad bought a company that moved us out of Texas into kind of like the city in 1985. I was only 1 year old, so I kind of would only be able to get into the outdoors when I moved back to Texas, or if I visited Texas or visited all my relatives or went there for summers and went to Christmases and stuff like that. So the fishing in South Florida is great, hunting not so much. I just grew up fishing and hunting with my dad.
So you're born in Texas, right after that, you move with your folks to South Florida, and you grow up hunting with your dad, fishing, but mostly with the hunting it's when you're heading back to Texas with the family then.
Yeah, maybe once a year for a couple days. Normally around Christmas or Thanksgiving when we would drive all the way there. It'd be like a 24-hour drive, and but I love practicing bow. All I wanted to do was hunt. I mean, I watched David Blanton and Bill Jordan's Realtree stuff. I bought every Monster Bucks DVD. My goal was, I'm like, dude, I have to be on Monster Bucks. This is like my goal in life is to be an outdoorsman, But at the time, sports, I was a baseball player, and I played baseball until I was 25, 26 years old, a little bit into the pro level. So that kind of takes a lot of it. But I would always, my drive was hunting. Or fishing or something, you know what I mean? So the outdoors just what drove me, and I just figured ways out how to do it in the city, or how to make it happen.
So what prompted you initially then, to get behind a bow?
Just watching my dad kind of getting into it, and all the guys on TV getting into it. And, I killed my first buck with a rifle, but my second buck was with a bow at the age of 13. So an 8-point, oh my gosh, I freaked out, you know what I mean? So, ever since then, it's always just been an itch to shoot a bow. And I would always shoot my little backyard. 20 yards is all I had, and every single day when I was a little kid. When I could draw back 30 pounds. I would go in the back and I'm like, hey, can I practice my bow in the backyard? Hey, can I practice my bow in the backyard? So since I was 13, like neighbors get mad, like people, arrows reflecting, and like, I'm like, oh gosh, like, Mom, I got my arrows in the neighbor's yard. What do I do? Like, like, oh, great. So I don't know. I just, ever since I was a young boy, I just loved shooting a bow and arrow. I didn't have to kill anything. I just loved shooting. At heart,
No, I'm with you on that, man. I grew up, there's a park not too far from me that they had, archery bales set up, and I had my little youth recurve bow that I'd go shoot. And I think back, and I think back to how I'd shoot with that. I'm like, I was pretty dang good with that. Like, I remember I was shooting some distance, and I was grouping, and I think to myself, like, man, I wish I had kind of kept that going, because shoot, if I'd kept practicing from that time and with the skill level I had then, I might actually be able to hit something like by now.
Yeah, I feel like my shot was better younger. It's like it wasn't as much target panic. I didn't know what that was. There wasn't like the stuff nowadays where you're like, I don't know, you just so much going on.
Well, it didn't matter back then, Yeah. It's like as you hit the hay bale, you're like super stoked. Like, you're like, yeah, whatever. Like,
pressure to be perfect. Yeah, exactly. Like now, if I'm not perfect, I'm upset, and then I'm all in my own mind, right? So back then it was just, hey, I just want to shoot. If I hit the target, awesome. And then you'd be like grouping. I did more Robin Hood when I was young than I have now. It's like, just like when I bring new people in, especially women, like they're hands steady and they're not as worried, and they're like, once you calm them down and they're not scared of the bow, they shoot awesome. Like new people, I'm like, what the heck? So it's like something you got to figure out. All right, it must be mental or something, what I mean?
Well, it's funny, I past whatever, 8 months, 10 months, I've been like almost stressing myself out, prepping for this elk hunt I just got back from. And, it's like, oh, every time I go out and shoot, I gotta work. And, I always enjoyed it, but like, I think I removed a lot of that fun aspect to shooting. Like, I would go out and I wouldn't just like relax and just kind of sling some arrows sometimes. Like, I was always like, it was always very regimented. Like, okay, I need to be doing these things to get better and practice. Like, it wasn't just going out and enjoying like, I didn't have a lot of those weekends where I just kind of had fun shooting some arrows that weekend. And I think
Yep.
It's almost a relief to be past the elk hunt, however, we talked a little bit about it earlier, but, however crazy and whatever it was, I've got that out of my system now. Everything else is like, I'll be ready. I'll be ready as long as I'm, still out there shooting. And now I can get back to just having fun with everything and not like putting so much pressure on myself to.
And that comes with, I think, experience and over time, like, because you're so pressured to get it done now. And then like, once you get it done, and then each year it's like, okay, you learn how to prepare and how to prepare better and how to practice and all that. And I think that's how I was. Like this year, I'm like, I'm not going to just start training, physically and mentally a month before or a month and a half before like I did this year. It's just more of an all year thing. I'm like, that way I kind of know what I'm going into. My first backcountry do-it-yourself deal, and now I'm ready, and I'm looking forward to training next year already. And I already started today. I did a little bit of training today already. Already? I'm like, yeah, already. It's like, so yeah, for sure. Practicing, figuring out how to practice right, And I was telling my cousin, we try to shoot every day, and we talk about each other's shot. And last night he was shooting. He's like, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not feeling it. I'm like, all right, well, just take a deep breath. Go into 20 yards. You don't have to shoot 100 arrows a day. You can shoot a dozen. Go into 20 yards, group at 20 real quick, like 3 or 4 shots real tight, because you can at 20, and then call it a day. End on a good note, and then start over tomorrow. Because some days you don't have it. And, I think that's a confidence deal, and, kind of being able to, like, not practice a bad habit now because you're freaking yourself out, or you're not shooting well, so you're just going to keep on pumping it, and like, oh, I got to keep doing it, I got to get better, and you're not going to get better, then you're just going to psych yourself out. And then sometimes just going to that 20, let a couple off, tight group, and then call it a day and start refresh tomorrow.
Yep. Well, and then, sometimes you get in there and like you're just shooting like crap, whatever it is, and you like you said, you psych yourself out, but then, or you convince yourself like, oh, maybe my sight's not adjusted correctly, or maybe this, and you start like tweaking stuff or doing weird things or whatever it is, and you just exacerbate the problem, and you make it worse and worse and worse, and suddenly now you've completely like readjusted your pins 9 times, and now they're just completely off when you knew they were on the first time. You're just having an off day. And
yeah, you're doing one little thing, one thing a little different than you normally done, or sometimes you didn't really realize that your peep wasn't straight centered or something that day, and you're like, it's a little bit off, and you're just like, oh, why can't? And it's just something you just look past sometimes. And now you're readjusting. Like the other day when I was shooting me from my elk hunt, I was like 2 inches off center to the right, like almost every other shot. I'm like, do I adjust my sight or what's going on? I realized it was just me. I was doing a little something different, and then I myself out. But it was like a dozen shots in a row, and I was almost like, all right, I need to adjust my sight. And I'm like, wait, let me sit back for a second. Let me really dissect this. And I was like, oh, okay. It was my peep, a little bit. It wasn't completely dead centered, and I wasn't, I was just doing some things that uncharacteristic of myself, but.
But yeah, so you're a teenager in South Florida. You're playing sports. You're fishing. You're hunting. So what happens? What takes you from then to now?
Okay, yeah. So, I didn't realize it at the time, but in high school, I had a little camera, and probably shouldn't say this, but I used to skip some classes and like before baseball practice. And I would go fishing for a few hours. This little local pond, I had a little 2-man bass boat. I'd put it on my truck and go fish for a few hours before class. And it was like a PE class, and it was like a study hall or something, like classes I don't really like. So I would go and we would film all our stuff, and not just for fun, not really realizing it. Well, fast forward after college baseball and a year of pro ball and just kind of like getting injured and stuff like that. And I came back and I'm like, man, I hunted every chance I get. I told my college coach sometimes, hopefully he doesn't listen to this, but I told him like, oh, I had to go to Texas for so-and-so. Really, my dad's like, hey, let's just go hunt. Let's go away for a hunt. And I'm supposed to I missed like 3 or 4 practices, and I kind of had to take a little white lie to my coach, and just so I could go hunt, because I had to get that in, and, so every chance I could, I was fishing with my brother, hunting with my dad, or fishing by myself with some buddies, but not near at the level that I would ever be anything, because I didn't have the time. Well, I, done with baseball, trying to figure out what I want to do, and went and worked for a family company, and kind of decided I wanted to go the whole outdoor TV route, and I started like a little apparel company. I started it with a friend. It was called Killing It Outdoors. And, just because like one day we were out sailfishing, caught like a dozen sailfish off the coast. And then that night we went out and went alligator hunting and killed a 12-foot gator. And you're like, dude, we're killing it today. We're killing it. Killing It Outdoors. All right, cool. So then we ran with that, and we videoed. I bought my first like professional camera, and I just started videoing everything. We started videoing. Taught myself how to edit Adobe. I'm like horrible, I don't know how to run a camera. The first turkey we had coming in, I didn't know. I had my ND filter on 3, and I'm like, it's daylight. Why can't I see this bird coming in of? And I missed the whole shot, like, just like trial and error stuff. And I just started filming. We started doing a lot of stuff, and going to trade shows, setting up my own booth, trying to sell apparel, like talking about being in the red. I'd pay hotel rooms, fuel, all the clothing, and sit there, and like our stuff I thought was so cool, and everybody would come and like people would buy it. But then it was like at the end of the day, it's like, all right, we still lost $500 this weekend. All right, we still lost this. I'm like, crap. But at the time, what I didn't realize then was all the networking and all the people I was meeting. Like one of my at Birmingham. It's like Big Buck Expo, I think, in Birmingham, Alabama. I'm set there. I have my videos, all my videos kind of playing, some cool turkey stuff, some cool things. And I'm right next to that guy, Chad Belding, I was talking to you earlier about at the Foul Life. And he's kind of intrigued on all the stuff we had going on. And for 3 days sitting next to somebody, and we're like, started to come. And now I'm really close friends with him. And he's introduced me to so many people. And, I didn't say no to anything. Kind of anyone was like, hey, do you want to go try to do this? And I'd find a means or a way to go do it, whether it's hunting or fishing or anything. So I got in the fishing world, I got on a boat that did professional sail fishing, huge down here in South Florida. I mean, big time tournaments with big time stakes at like a couple $100,000 on the line. You win these things, you have a 7 crew team, and it was just so people in the outdoor industry didn't know how to sail fish, saw it and were like, dude, I would love to do that. So I started like to barter, hey, come down sail fishing with me. I'll go, we can go hunting together, or come kill an alligator with me. Because an alligator is like a lizard to me. I grew up with them down here. Mm-hmm. So I took the alligator hunting, the fishing, the turkey hunting, which Osceola turkey is sought after. Yeah. People pay big-time dollars for those. So I have them in my backyard pretty much. Well, they're like an hour away. So I just took everything that I had that I became good at, and I was like, how can I use this? So I started like Tyler Jordan from Realtree. He came and caught his first sailfish with me. You had Nick Muntz come and turkey hunt with me from Realtree with our bone collectors, and he caught a mahi and a sailfish with me. Then I have, Gary Allen from a country singer came down and gator hunted with me, killed his first gator with me. It's like all these things. And then I just slowly started a snowball where people are like, what? Like, why is Brett, or what's Brett doing? And now I'm kind of like, I kind of got some sponsors, and I guess I taught myself how to take some cool pictures and do some marketing stuff. And, kind of here I am now. It's like, it's been a while, and it's been a hard road to get here, but kind of making, some good contacts, and got some good partnerships with some really big companies, some of the top companies in the industry now. So it's like, once you're with like somebody like Garmin or Oakley or Realtree, people are like, hey, what's he doing? And then other opportunities start to come, so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Well, it's amazing. Like, you can get further just knowing how to talk with people, and like just being real with them, and making those contacts will, more than anything else you can do. Like, I've noticed, like same kind of thing. Like, an opportunity would come out, and like there'd be some event going on in Salt Lake City, Utah or something. And I'm like, I need to get out for the weekend. Let's see how much flights are. And it's like, I'm not making any money off of this, but I got the chance to sit down and talk with some awesome guys. And then the next time I'm out at some event, they recognize me, and we'll hang out and we'll do something. And it's just been super, super beneficial knowing you'll get further knowing just how to talk to people like human beings than anything else in this world. It's amazing.
I tell some people, I'm like, it's not what you know, it's who you know, especially in this game. Because, it helps to know a lot about this, a lot about it. But, man, I'm not a better hunter than a lot of hunters out there. Kids, people always ask me, how do I get involved in this? How do I become, not me, but how do I get sponsors? How do I start a career in the outdoor industry? And to me, it's just like, it's what you said. I've flown to Vegas. So I only knew one person, but I walk around and I talk to people. Mm-hmm. And I just meet all these different people, and, and just keeping up with those contacts is hard, but you have to do it. And keeping up with you tell them, hey, come down and come fishing with me, holding them to it and having them come down. And then they see, okay, and then, I have these guys that come down, and then it's like, oh, I have this huge buyer that wants to catch a sailfish. Now this guy's repping whatever, and let's go with Brett. He knows what he's doing. It's going to be huge for our company. I've had this guy from Shimano call me, and he's like, hey, my number one buyer. I'm like, I'm kind of in a bind and I don't know what to do. And he talked about killing turkeys. Is there any way that I could come? Boom. It's like, yeah, I'll give you one of my turkeys. Come down. He kills the Osceola, biggest one I've ever seen, honestly. So I was like, are you kidding me? I kill these little dinks compared to what he killed. And I'm like, and then that just, in his mind, he's like, oh, wow, Brett can get it done. Brett knows what to do. Brett has it. I can trust him. And then they're like, okay, so now I'm like, hey, I need X amount of rods or X amount of reels. And it's like a no-brainer. Okay, boom. What you did for me is huge. This buyer, keeping him happy, entertaining clients and stuff like that. And they bring it down. And now I'm more, I don't know, I'm just better off with that company that I'm working with now, so.
Yeah. It's a relationship building game. It more than anything else, that's what it is. It's building relationships with people, with companies. And, I've had a lot of people that I'll talk to and then they'll be surprised. They'll be like, wait, so you haven't done any of this before? How on earth do you know so-and-so or have... I'm like, I just like talking to people. I mean, like I went to, I'm actually wearing the shirt right now. I went to Total Archery Challenge and, everyone, you go there to shoot and you go there to have a good time and shoot a 3D tournament. I probably spent half of my time just sitting and talking with folks. Like, yeah. I went and, shot the courses and stuff, but 90% of my, probably not 90, but like 60, 70% of my purpose for going there was to hang out and meet people and talk with them and make contacts.
And that's exactly what you have to do. And then especially getting into it, that's huge. I tell people all the time, definitely if you have some kind of trade show or anything in your city and you're not, even if it's out of your state, drive to it, go meet people, go talk, like tell them what because in the beginning I was so scared. I'm like, I'm going to sell these guys on a dream pretty much. Hey, I swear, like when I was trying to get a TV show spot, I swear I'm going to have a good TV show. I don't have one yet, but I swear it's like, it was just scary to tell, like, how are you going to go to like a huge company and they have Michael Waddell as their lead guy? I promise I think I can be, oh man. So
you kind of listen to what you're selling. Yeah. You're not even selling yourself on it right now.
Yeah, you're like, oh man. But that's where, in a little bit of, I feel like I've actually done some good work. I mean, I've taught myself a lot. And I put some good content out there for people, and they starting to enjoy it. And it's been a long road, but it's been awesome. I got to do some really cool things and meet a lot of really cool people. And like I told you, my goal was to be on Monster Bucks, and I was on it 3 years ago. I've been on Monster Bucks now like 4 or 5 times, and I'm like the first one I have it over here somewhere. I'm like, I have a DVD of one. I'm on one of these. I'm on the Monster Bull and a Monster Bulls one, or Monster Buck and a Monster Bull. So like,
so do they have like volume numbers, or like what's the if people wanted to go hunt those down, which ones should they be looking for?
Oh man, it's Monster Bucks 22, I believe. It was 2014. It's like volume. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2. I'm not. They sent me them when I'm in it, but I don't remember exactly.
No worries. I'll see if I can look it up and post those up on the show notes page. So who, as you started all of this, and you're meeting all these people, kind of, because I kind of feel like you're all, you grew up as a fan of the outdoor industry. You're not just, you're not just somebody that kind of ended up in it, but you did grow up with that perspective of you loved the outdoor industry. You thought all this stuff was really cool and all these people were cool. Who would you say, put you on the spot here, who would you say is like the coolest person, like the one person you're like, I can't believe I finally met so-and-so? Who would that person be? You're big.
There's it's like, obviously I feel like one of the founders of the outdoors is like Bill Jordan, and being part of Realtree now is just like a huge accomplishment. It's one of my best accomplishments, I feel like, in my life, for my hunting, my hunting point of view. But, him and David Blanton had to be up there. But, the coolest personality, obviously, he's like TV gold, is obviously, Michael Waddell. I met with him, and he's been in camp with me. I haven't hunted with him, but I got to go to an event with Realtree put on for all their guys, and got to shoot bows. We had a little 3D target deal, and Waddell's hosting it. It was same with Blanton and Bill Jordan, and T-Bone and Munson, and all the Heartland bow hunter guys, and everybody's out there, and I'm shooting a bow, and I don't have I'm like the only guy there who really doesn't have a TV show. I'm just like, I'm on stuff. I'm like, this is crazy. So I have to shoot an archery competition in front of all these guys I idolize, right?
No pressure, man.
Yeah, I swear I don't know what was worse. Like, I just killed the biggest buck of my life like a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago. And I just killed that elk on public land. Like, I was shaking just as bad shooting in front of all those guys as I was when that elk came in. And I'm like trying to grab my arrows, trying to knock them, and it was a timed event. It was 5 shots, and I'm up against T-Bone, which is one of the best shots in the game. And I almost snuck it off. T-Bone, it was crazy. When T-Bone and I were up, we had the 2 highest scores of the whole competition.
Nice.
And he beat 1 point. And I was like, oh, so close. But, yeah, I got down to the semifinals with those guys. It was like 40 of us. And I was just like, oh, my, it was like surreal feeling. You're like, dude, I'm with all these guys with all these TV shows that I've looked up to that are awesome hunters and all these people, because Realtree is like a family, and there's a lot. They don't really just pick and choose anybody. You kind of have to, because they're more of like a Christian company, or they're into like religion and stuff like that. So they kind of want the best of the best type of role models and all. So all these guys are awesome people, and I'm just sitting there like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I was just so nervous and ended up doing well, but. Like I said, I think, the Jordan family and, Blanton and stuff, some of the guys that I've always watched growing up, those are probably the guys that, I don't know, those are my guys.
That's really cool, man. That's super cool. So I have to say, you've been talking a bit about alligator hunting, mm-hmm. and that's one thing. It's always been on my bucket list, man. It's one of those things, like, I don't know what it was, but I was out at this work event, and I don't have TV, I have like Netflix and Amazon, and that's about it. Like, I don't watch any broadcast TV. So every so often, like when I'm staying somewhere and they've got, I get sucked into the outdoor reality TV void. Yeah. Like not even like the super good stuff. But like I ended up binge watching like Swamp People for probably like 4 or 5, 6 hours, whatever it was. And like I was like a little kid watching Sunday morning cartoons. Like I was laying out on the couch with like my chin in my hands, and like it was so bad. My boss comes walking in. He's like, "Do I even want to know how long you've been here?" I'm like, "No, nope. You don't."
Like all the empty wrappers on the side of the bed, and you're like all your
seriously
right here. And you're like, nope, you don't want to
know. But ever since then, man, like they don't. They're not like bow hunting alligators or anything in there, but I have always wanted to do that. Like that is just, I don't know. That's like up there with one of those just like badass manly things. You're just like.
And it's funny. Through all this, I've actually became friends with Jay Paul from Swamp People. So it's cool. And, I love the guy to death. Super cool, like loves hunting and stuff. But I kind of blame them for, I used to be able to get as many tags as I wanted. Mm-hmm. I used to bring everybody. Now it's hard for me to draw a tag because so many people are putting in because of the show Swamp People.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're like an alligator hunter now, which kind of, it hurts and helps at the same time. Like they don't know what they're doing, so they're not going to kill a big one. But I put in all the years, and I've killed. I used to sell alligator hunts, and I used to trade barter, and I'm like 10 foot or bigger. It's a trophy gator. My biggest is like 12.6. It's huge, like giant dinosaur. But it is something that everyone needs to do at least once, just to do it. I mean, it's something. The mosquitoes are crazy. I mean, you got, it's like I've had grown men, because I'm in a 10-foot John boat.
Yeah.
And you have a 12-foot gator. I've had so many times the gators come up, bite holes in the bottom of the boat. You start taking on water. It is an adrenaline rush like no other. Grown men with their legs shaking, like knees buckling. I'm like, don't worry, guys, I got it. I have to do before I go and I hype it all up because they get in the car and I'm like, this is dangerous. Like, you could lose an arm. Like, you have safety precautions here. I've got to debrief you on everything that's going to happen and will happen. And dude, it's intense. I have some guys from Kentucky coming, not this weekend, but next weekend. I bartered out one of my Kentucky properties. I trade turkey hunts and gator hunts with them. Became really close friends with me. So that's another thing. People in here like, oh, I don't know where to go. How do I go hunt? Meet somebody. Figure out what you have that somebody else wants or that needs or wants to do. That's this. Like, so I take my gators, I take my offshore fishing, I take my Osceolas, and I say, hey, invest a little bit of money, if you can. There's also public lands, a lot of good public land turkey hunting here that you can just go do the scout and say, like, hey, I got these birds. I do the hard work. You let me go deer hunt your property or so, there's so many ways to do it, but they're coming down this next weekend. I've got, I haven't gone and done any scouting really, but I kind of know how to do it. I go right behind some truck and kill a big gator right behind them because they just don't know what they're doing. Yeah. So I'm stoked. I get in the gator woods, gator land, the gator swamp.
The gator swamps. Yeah, there we go. Gator country. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I get to go into the gator country next weekend, and it's be cool. We got to try to kill 2 gators, and like I said, 2 over 10. But some we got to do. Hopefully, we'll do in a couple of years. We'll come down if I can get the tags. I got put in for probably 20, and I got 1. So it's just getting super tough. And like I said, I used to get 10 to 12. And I just have to turn tags back in. Yeah. This year and the previous years, it's been super hard to get. But yeah, we'll have to do it one year out there and do a podcast right out on actually in the gator.
in the boat.
The boat. All right, here we go. This is what we're about to do.
We'll have to edit the part out where I'm screaming like a girl, probably.
Yeah, no, it's been intense. I've had some fun. I've fallen in the water on top of a gator after we bang sticked it.
Shoot, man.
A lot of times they don't die after the first one. They're crazy stuff. I had stories. I could go on for stories for hours about how crazy alligator hunting is and how strong and how just. I don't know.
Well, I can only imagine. I was out a couple months ago with some buddies, and we were doing some bow fishing in South Louisiana, and actually did a podcast about it. But one of them arrowed an alligator gar, a 5-foot alligator gar, and we had to put 2 more arrows in that before you could get it in, and had to pull out the 22 before it would stop thrashing. And like, if that thing was that tough, I could only imagine like a full-sized alligator how much abuse one of those suckers could take before it goes down.
Well, their whole back, their scutes on their back, it's all like, their skin's like the strongest leather you've ever seen, and then they have bone on top. It's like an armored plate on their whole back. Yeah. So you have to try to harpoon them. You got to get a snag hook in them. You got to have a harpoon in them. You got to try to bang stick them in the right spot. I've had 2 357 bullets in a gator, and it was torrential downpour, lightning, and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, these gators are dead. It's thunderstorm from all hell. Get back to my buddy's house. He has this fenced in backyard. We throw the gators in the backyard. We're like, all right, we'll come back in the morning and get them.
Oh, no.
The gators that we had 357 bullets in the back of their head were in the swimming pool. Alive. Like,
oh, shoot, man.
Bullets in their head had, just healed. It's crazy. I'm like, how is this possible? So, of course, I have to jump in the water with goggles on and go try to wrestle these alligators. They're now alive. They are back to health, 100%. I have some videos somewhere, and they destroy me. And not knowing, we taped their mouth because you have to tape their mouths. Yeah. So mouths are taped, but we had a 9.5 footer that was missing his front legs. They're mean. They'll eat each other and stuff. Well, one had his arm bit off. So he was a little bit easier to work with. But the other one was 11 foot. And I'm going down there and I'm like messing with him, trying to get him up, like trying to figure out how to do this. And I'm in his environment. I'm in the water.
Yeah.
So I go down there and I grab his mouth at one time and I realize he's been on the bottom of the pool rubbing the tape. The tape was barely by like a tiny, like a fraction, like a quarter, not even a half, like a quarter of an inch was the only thing holding this gator's mouth closed now because the tape had worn off.
Oh no.
Oh gosh. What do I do? I'm freaking out. So I finally end up like figuring a way. I grabbed his front leg and his back leg and he swam in circles and I got him over to the shallow end and kind of like swung him up and my buddy kind of grabs and pulls him in, and when I'm getting out of the water, he ends up thrashing his tail, and his tail is the strongest part. It's like, I mean, it's solid muscle, like, and he whips me so hard with his tail, knocks the breath out of me, about cracks a rib. I had a huge black and blue mark on my whole side of the alligator just destroyed my life.
Oh,
oh my gosh. But it was a wild story. But we end up getting a knife in their spine, and that's the only really way you can get them to kill them.
Until it goes Wolverine on you again and like pushes the knife out and like
yeah, exactly.
Jeez. That alligator, little do you know, is that alligator's been around since before World War II. So
exactly. Yeah, they grow, I think, a foot a year until they hit 6 feet or something, and then it's like less than an inch. So, I mean, a 12-footer, someone say over 100 years old and stuff like that, and just like, wild, the things that he's seen. And
jeez, that's crazy to think. Like, you know, I kind of joke about that, but it's serious. These things have been around. They're friggin' dinosaurs, basically. Yeah. You know, they're about as close as we get. Oh man, that's just gnarly, man. That's a super bucket list thing right there. I have it's a bummer that it's harder to get tags now, though, because you're not the first person that's told me that they used to, you know, go all the time. Just wasn't a big deal, you know. They'd have you turning back in tags, and now TV will do that, man.
Yep. Well, they had, I don't know how many years ago, but you couldn't hunt alligators in Florida anymore. They kind of put a hurting on them, and you know, they came back so fast because there's no predators and there's nobody kill. I mean, and then there came back millions and millions. I mean, I can take you to a spot I've glassed and I've shined at night, and there'd be 300-400 gators in 100-200 yard stretch. Jeez. And it's like, how do they all feed? Like, that's why some of them are super skinny. Only the strong kind of survive type of deal. But yeah, they need to give more tags in some of these little units that I'm hunting in. But
I'm surprised they don't do it like they do some tags where there's basically an allotment of a certain amount that can be killed. Like, as many people as want can get tags, but you know, you have to check in every day or whatever on how many have been taken. Kind of like they do for bears in California.
Yeah, once they hit that quota, then they shut it off.
Yeah, it's a kill quota, not so much a tag quota. That seems like it might be a good way to manage that, but you know, I obviously have no say in anything anywhere, so because it seems like with the popularity of it, everyone's buying tags, but I'm curious to see what the success ratio is for something like that.
Well, that's the thing here. What's the problem is the size limit is, I mean, people are killing 6-foot gators, and 6-foot gators a year old or young, and it'll come right to you, and it's not scared, and not, you know, they're so easy to kill. So now I'm seeing more of the weekend warrior, I call them, or whatever, that's going out killing so many small gators. When there was only a few of us that I would see out there hunting, we all knew each other, and the game wardens all knew us, and we were kind of not just filling tags. I never killed a gator under 9 foot, you know, and I'm like, dang, it was a 9-footer, which is a big gator. Seeing so many on, because you gotta, you know, every time you have to log in and out, and you see who's killed what, and you know, there's so many 6-foot gators, 7-foot gators that I'm like, oh my gosh, and they're happy to kill them, but still, it's like, that's a young gator, and all you're doing is these guys don't know how to hunt, so all they're doing is, educating the big ones for me, and now it's making it a little bit harder for me to kill the big ones.
Yeah. So what's the size limit for gators? Like, what's the smallest you're allowed to take, or is there one?
Yeah, it's I think it's like 6 inches from its nose to its eyes, which makes it about a 6-foot gator. I think that's what it is. Don't quote me on it. I'm not 100% sure because I'll never kill one, so my gators are the smallest gator I'll ever kill is 9 foot, and it's well over legal limit, so I don't know exactly off the top of my head. That's
an interesting. Is that just more because sometimes their tails get damaged or something, so you can't measure them tip to tail? Like, do you know what the reasoning is behind that?
Yeah, I think because it's hard. A lot of times, that's all you see on a gator is his face.
Oh, I guess yeah.
Out of the water. So you got to try to like ballpark it like, hey, and a few years ago you weren't allowed to see where I hunt. It's all public land. You have to have a string attached to the gator somehow because they sink if you shoot them. You're not allowed to just shoot one with a gun.
I gotcha.
So you cast on one, you hook him, you get him to the boat, and he's not sized. You weren't allowed to cut him off before. It's like nuisance. You're like pestering the wildlife or whatever they would caught, so they didn't want you. But now they realize like a lot of people kind of did make mistakes or hook small gators and they want to kill them, didn't want them to kill small gators or something. So now, now you're allowed to cut them off. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's why. And I've had a doctor who didn't want to kill one that I had hooked on. That would have been well over 10 foot, but he was missing about a foot of his tail because the alligator had eaten it all.
Oh,
so
I guess, yeah.
De-hooked this thing while he's next to the boat. He bites down, puts 4 holes in my boat, and it's like a geyser coming into the water. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had 2 doctors on my boat that don't know how to hunt or already freaking out. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to need one of you guys to plug these holes in this boat with your fingers, and I'm going to oar as fast as I can back to land so we don't sink, because I was a mile from the bank, and we had passed probably a dozen gators, all from 8 to 10 foot range. We're going for this real big one. I'm like, we're done if we sink right now. So you guys are going to have to do this, and I'm going to have to row as fast as I can. And I was worn out. I'm getting us just back. I'm like, I can't have these guys die. I'm rowing. To get back to land. And my one friend that was his like some people that he knew he was freaking because he didn't see one of the doctors because he was laying in the boat.
Plugging the holes.
They're coming back. And he's like, oh my gosh. Am I going to call 911? What's going on? But when we got closer, he realized that he was laying down, plugging holes in the boat because we were taking on water.
So note to self, if I ever go gator hunting with you, bring along something to plug holes.
Yeah, some putty or something. Yeah. My buddy's borrowing my John boat right now, and I talked to him yesterday. I'm like, hey, I'm going to need my boat. I got some guys coming in town, and he's like, all right, well, I just finished fixing the holes yesterday. Yeah. So when he went out last week, he had other gators bite holes in the boat. It's like, it's going to happen. It's inevitable. Like that it's going to happen.
There's this weird stuff I saw, and I kills me that I didn't bookmark it. I might have it saved somewhere. But it's like a roll of tape almost, and it's kind of has the same effect as like when you cast your arm or something like that. Mm-hmm. But it's like supposed to be as strong as steel, and they were showing like they like snapped the head off of a sledgehammer, and they took this stuff and they wrap it around, and you get it wet, and once it gets wet, it hardens as like strong. Supposedly, it's like steel tape or something. It's like one of those Facebook ads you come across, and they're showing they'll like snap the head off of it, wrap it up, pour water on it, it hardens, and then they're sitting there and they're like breaking concrete with it. I'm like,
If that really worked, that's awesome. Like, if that's legit, I'm buying some of that. That's what you say. You're like, definitely.
And I it was one of those things like I always meant to look up, and I never ended up doing it. And now that, this was like months ago, because I was thinking like, crap, you snap you snap a tent pole or a trekking pole or something like that. How nice would that be? Just wrap that up. But I'm thinking, man, like if it's close to like the edge of the boat, like right under the water line there, you just slap some of that on and
Yeah.
See how that's not a bad repair there. I'd have to see how watertight it is though. But
yeah,
nothing
well, I
else.
think anything would help at that point. We've used gum, we've used stuff like anything just to slow it down a little bit, you know.
On that note, let's take a quick moment to hear a word from one of my partners. Hey y'all, as hunters, we are constantly on the move. Whether it's a scouting trip, heading to the range, training for the hunt, or searching for sheds, providing the fuel to sustain this high-intensity lifestyle requires top-quality food options. And you shouldn't have to compromise the quality of your nutrition when you're on the go. Rugged Meats is here to provide superior nutrition anywhere or anytime, no matter what the hunt is throwing at you. Their snack sticks are made from 100% free-range, wild-caught, forest-raised boar, and all products are guaranteed to be free of any added nitrates, MSG, and gluten. Plus, they come in several different flavors and options so you can find the best way to power your pursuit. Check out the Rugged Meats website and get 10% off all purchases from Rugged Meats by visiting our partners page at livingcountryinthecity.com/partners. Yeah, so you were mentioning a little bit about the recent hunts you came back from. You went out chasing some muleys and chasing some elk as well.
Yeah, no, it was a whitetail.
Oh, it was a whitetail. Okay, whitetail. I stand corrected. So you went chasing elk and whitetail recently. Tell me a little bit about those trips, how those went.
All right, so pretty sure everyone's familiar about the storm that just came and did some damage to Florida. So I was in direct path of Irma. So I'm like, oh gosh, I've been training for months for this elk hunt. I had this storm coming. There's a good chance if I stick this storm out, I can't leave. There's no power stuff, like they put you on, you know, a curfew on you. They kind of don't allow you to drive anywhere because there's no traffic lights. There's things just, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like freaking out now. The storm's coming. I'm like, all right. I boarded up my shop. I got the house situated. I'm like, all right, well, I'm leaving. I'm leaving early for my elk hunt because I don't want to get stranded here and not go on my elk hunt. I got plenty of people here that can take over and make sure everything's okay. So I left a few days before, which was insane because it took me 3 hours just to find a gas station that had fuel.
Oh, geez.
And it had 100 gallons left when I got there. So I topped off. This was at 1:30 at night. And I boarded everything, got all my hunting stuff together, and I hit the road. It was crazy because they were evacuating the Keys at the moment. So I'm driving, and there's all these dead stop traffic at some points. And I'm like, this is insane. You'd pull over. There's service stations in the middle of the highway on the turnpike, and there'd be thousands of cars waiting to try to get fuel. So it's causing, and they're into the fast lane, so it's causing slowdowns. There's people sleeping on the side of the road. They've been getting their houses boarded up in the Keys, got their whole family and driving. I was seeing girls driving with their kids, and they couldn't even keep it in their lanes because it was just, you could tell they were so worn out. They're trying to get away, and it was bad. I'd have to drive off the highway like 20 miles just to find a gas station that had fuel, and there would be lines at 3 a.m. You know, it's like, it was crazy. So whatever, I get out of that mess, and I get to Kansas, and my buddy in Nebraska is like, dude, you have a few days to kill. I had this really big deer in the daylight, unpressured, eating alfalfa. Do you want to come hunt him? I'm like, yeah. So it's like a 6.5 hour drive from Kansas City, or Kansas City area where my buddy lives, one of my best friends, and I'm going elk hunting with, to Nebraska, to the area I'm hunting. I get there, and sure enough, first afternoon, I see the buck comes out, and he's giant. I'm like, oh my gosh, but he's 80 yards, as close as you get. A bunch of other deer in the alfalfa field. Well, when you're hunting a food plot like that, it's really hard to hunt mornings because you just bust the deer out because they're all around it all night, all morning. Only time to slip in there is in the afternoon around 2 or 3 o'clock when nothing's in there because it's so hot, early season hunting. So the next evening I go there. He doesn't show up, but a really nice buck shows up that I ended up passing on. Really tough decisions. it was a 10 point that's close to like 150. I would shoot this deer every single day of my life, but I knew it was there. So the next day, third night, the deer comes out, and it comes out early. He didn't show up the day before, so I'm all worried. I'm like, did I blow this deer out? Next day, he comes out, and he's just mowing down alfalfa for like, he comes out with at least like 30 minutes of shooting light left, and he's not worried. It's crazy, like hunting early season deer. If you can find them unpressured, and I made sure my wind was right every time. Like, it's just slipped in and out with, the right tactics, and he just had his head down, just eating alfalfa. But he never would come into range because I was hunting this little tree line, and the alfalfa field was big. It was 200 yards wide by 100 yards long, and he started working his way to this like tree row where a car, it was like pretty close to like dirt road in this little farm town, and a car kind of went by and kind of pushed that deer my way, and he kind of came right at last light, man. I stuck him like about 30 yards, and it was like a 180-inch whitetail, giant, my biggest. I mean, I'm not huge into trophy hunting, like I want to hunt the most mature deer on the property, and mature deer, that's when you start to get numbers on score as it's mature, So this deer ends up being the biggest deer I ever killed with my bow, about 180 inches with a little drop time. It was crazy. So that's my first hunt of the year, and I'm shooting this giant whitetail, and I'm like, well, now it's time to go elk hunting. So I drive back to Kansas City, which all my friends are like, why are you driving back to Kansas City? You're like almost to Colorado. I'm like, well, I got to go with a couple buddies, we're going on the team. So I had like a day or two there. I have a Kansas lease that I lease property for deer hunting, and I went and like put my corn out, checked my cameras, made sure a couple stands were good, and we hauled butt to Colorado. And, not ever doing a backcountry backpacking tent deal with over-the-counter tag. I'm like, all right, it's time to separate the men from the boys. This is the big thing you're trying to get into. The success rate's 8% with a bow, cow or bull. So I'm like, all right, let's go do it. And shoot, man, from day one, we kind of went to a couple new areas. We searched Google Maps trying to find, those little benches or those little open, just look for areas that looked good on that. And then hopefully it wasn't somebody on it. And we try to get away from trailheads and try to do that stuff. Well, heard a lot of bulls. My buddies, we kind of like split up a little bit because I didn't want us to be all in one spot, because I thought our odds, if we can find one hot bull and we get on them, okay, then we'll kind of like team up and go try to get it. But let's spread out first. Let's try to find some bulls instead of sitting. Last year they went in an area, just one area, and put all their kind of eggs in one basket and didn't really get into a bull until the last day they heard one. And like this year we were more mobile and we're walking further, but we were able to kind of see more area and kind of listen and hear more bulls and figure out which ones we can get on and which ones we couldn't. So first couple of days, I think on the third day, my buddies had a bull come in within 40 yards and just never really gave them that opportunity that they could take a shot on. And I think on like the sixth day or something, I was working this. I had a bull, the same bull I hunted like I think 3 or 4 days. He was the first day I got up to this flat top that he was on. It was he was screaming and he wanted to come, but he just never would commit. And he stayed about 80 yards in the spruce, but I knew he was right there. And it was just like, he was so close where the bugles were rattling your chest and you're like, come on, please, you're right. Just praying that he would commit and just take those steps, and just never would. So next evening, I never saw the bull that morning. The next evening I went out, same spot, and it hailed on us. It was raining, hailing, sleeting, and we get close to the spot I saw him, and up on this ridge, way up tall, and a couple little like openings. I seen this bull, and he was with 6 cows, and I was like, wow, this is a good bull. I'm going to be hunting this bull. He kind of thought he was going to make his way down to us, but he never actually did. He stayed up top and kind of just side-skirted the mountain. But next morning, I go in there by myself because my buddies were going to go try to hunt that bull that they had that encounter with. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to go hunt by myself. I got within 100 yards 3 times this bull, and he just wouldn't commit. He just wouldn't leave. He's like chasing a turkey that's leaving, walking away. It's so hard to chase a bull. I was just always behind. The cows were just a little bit in front and working. I didn't know which way they were going, so I was kind of trying to get in close. I was raking trees, trying to sound like a bull, like not even really bugling, just kind of like raking a tree like he's like, oh, what is that? I want him to kind of turn around and maybe come look, but he never did. And I'm not the best elk hunter. I just heard podcasts and I heard it. I'm like, I'm going to try this. He went up and I thought I heard him. I thought I knew where he was bedded. He bugled like 100 times that morning. And I'm like, God. It's with these cows, and I hunted him that evening thinking he was going to come down where he bedded, but I guess he crested the mountain and went to the other side. And I was like, all right, well, I'll let this bull. I hunted him like 3 or 4 days. I'm going to let him rest. I let him rest, and I come back like 2 days later with my buddy, kind of go up to where he left, and got up in there, and he bugled. We cut the distance in this little ravine, and the rest was history. He came in on a string straight to 30 yards, put an arrow in him, like one lunged him, kind of because he was quartered in the spruce. It's like, it's not like, it's so thick, and it's so hard to get shot opportunities after these elk, like ethical shot opportunities. So I got a shot that I thought I could get, but I ended up getting, I think, like one lung, and ended up bumping him like 2 hours later, only 100 yards from where he was. I thought I gave him enough time, and then rested another 4 or 5 hours, and found him bedded up again and got another arrow in him, and he ran and jumped off a cliff.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. He ran and committed suicide, jumped off the cliff, broke his rack off, and then we had to quarter him up on a straight vert. Dude, like straight, like it was like straight vert, like I don't even know what degrees. And it was the most sketchy thing. I had to time the tree so he didn't slide down. Rocks were sliding when we were trying to.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, like it was insane. But only thing was holding him up after he did his fall. One spruce tree, his horns were hanging kind of like just wedged into this tree a little bit, and he was hanging. I mean, his body was pretty much hanging down, and his head was holding him up. Dude, it was nuts.
Oh, that's crazy.
We found, like, we got him kind of moved a little bit with a bunch of paracord and stuff, and packing that meat straight down was sketchy too, man. I had 90 pounds. Like I had I had my bow, a hind quarter in my back, and then I would try to be He-Man and carry his horn, his head and horn on one side of his rack, which was all lopsided because one side was broken, so I only had one side really to hold it. And I didn't train enough. I think. Yeah. I got on the mountain 5 a.m., I think, or 4:30. Got to the spot. Got back to the truck at 3 a.m. So it was like it was an all-day deal on the mountain, but for me, I'm not used to that experience, and it was insane. I know a lot of those guys in the Midwest are probably like, oh, that's typical, but I was like, oh my gosh, I got to train harder. Yeah. I have to do next year. There's no, but my shins are all, destroyed from falling, and it's just having that weight on your back with no trekking poles going down.
Oh, you didn't have poles, man?
No.
Oh, dude, that's the one thing, like, I was super sketchy about carrying, but I'm like, really? But then the second I started using them on hikes, oh gosh, I wouldn't trade those for anything in the world.
I brought them, but I didn't have them. I'm like, bring them with me. And we're all like, oh my gosh, if we had trekking poles right now, I'm like, yeah, don't even bring it up right now, because we would go, I was so worn out. My hips hurt, and I'm just not used to it, and it's something that it's crazy. I wouldn't change a single thing about the whole hunt, but I just need to be more prepared next year for things like that.
You know what? You do things the hard way. Like, everyone knows at this point, I did things the hard way myself. But it'll give you the most badass story in the world. Freaking suicidal elk and quartering it on a sheer drop and all of that. But then, you look back and Heck, packing out any other elk's going to be a lot easier from now on.
Yeah. And I couldn't get the pick. It was just like mentally, it was like an emotional roller coaster ride because, I bumped the elk the one time and then it falls up. It was just like, and then it's night and we're trying to walk down this rock cliff pretty much. I mean, so scared. I mean, we all fell. There was no way to not fall and slide, and like there was no other way. Like where he could not have put himself in a worse position. And I was like, oh well, we got to. However long it takes us, as long as we can be careful and not try to rush it, we just got to do it. And oh man, when I got off that straight cliff and it was just a regular climb, like hike now downhill, and oh man, it was wild.
So aside from training harder next year, what would you look at? What would you say you learned that you would that you could apply to your next backcountry hunt? What's a learning or a takeaway from this hunt other than the training that you think you would be able to apply to your next backcountry hunt?
Oh, so many. Definitely better rain gear. I definitely need to bring another pair of boots just because they went backcountry last year where they were nowhere near. Well, we were kind of near a trail by the truck, kind of backpacked. We thought we were gonna go set up base camp and hunt from there, but we decided against it, and which worked out better for us to be a little more mobile, hike more in a day. So I could have brought more stuff, and I only brought one pair of boots, and I hiked in wet boots every single day, wet clothes, because our tent condensation builds inside and it just becomes wet. The second to last night, it poured on us, downpour, torrential, like lightning thunderstorm, and that condensation became a mister inside, and it just all night I'm getting like wet because I'm getting rained on, like it's like,
oh yeah,
drizzling on me all night, and it's cold, and I'm like, this is miserable. And then all my clothes are wet, and so it's like maybe being a little bit more prepared in that sense of since if we're going to do it that way, bringing a box that I can put my stuff in that's waterproof, just the clothes. And I put a lot of my clothes inside my sleeping bag, to kind of try to keep them warm and keep them, cool, but you can only fit so much. And other than training, maybe I need to get a little better at calling, for sure. Being out there listening, they do a lot more than just bugle, and kind of learning why they're making the noise they're making and just becoming a little more familiar with elk. Not, everything comes by experience, obviously, like all these guys experience it, but listening a little more, learning a little more, maybe doing a little more research on the actual elk.
If you get a chance, check out the episode of the Rich Outdoors podcast where he talks with Paul Medell, the elk nut.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a 3-hour podcast, and you'll want to listen to it like 4 times and take notes.
Yeah.
He just goes through. I mean, if you want to really learn the details about calling and get probably more info than you'll ever use, it's all there. And even downloading, I think for $4.99 you can download the Elk Nut app off the iTunes or Google Play Store, and it just has all of those tips and like sounds that you can replicate. Like I on my drive to Idaho, like I would alternate. I'd listen to a podcast and then I'd plug in the Elk Nut app and I'd sit and I'd practice my bugles along with that thing. You can just like set it to keep playing them, and so I'd try and replicate those. And
yeah, exactly.
If you want to learn more about bugling and elk calling, that's super legit. Super legit to check out.
And I did a little bit on the way, but I think I should have made that more of a priority to not be the weak link in the team of calling,
I gotcha.
Like I can sound like a cow, I can sound like a bull, but it's like that pressured bull when you're hunting you got to hunt hunters and elk in public land. So you're like, wow, well, if I was a better caller, I feel like that would just give me a little bit better edge, give me that edge, maybe that be a little better, even though we were successful and we beat the odds and we did a great job. I'd like to next year, I'd really like to see if we can get 2. out of the group.
Nice.
We had 3 guys eat tag sandwiches or tag soup, and I'd like to see that not happen next year.
Definitely. Well, you should, what I do, I have for some reason, I have 9 different bugle tubes. I would just end up I'd forget one somewhere and I'd want to practice. And so I'd buy another one at some expo, or I'd win one through something, so I've got this whole stack of bugle tubes. So I always have 1 or 2 in the car. And then I have these little hat clips for diaphragm calls, and I have several diaphragm calls attached to my visor in my car, and then there's some sitting in the dash, and then there's one in a little baggie in the tray down here. And so just whenever I'm in the car, I'll see them, and it'll be that reminder, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'll turn down the music and or I'll turn down the podcast, and I'll spend half an hour as I'm sitting in traffic just look like I'm a crazy person in the car to everyone in Los Angeles.
In LA, people are like, what on earth is that guy doing? Yeah. Same with mine. Same with me. I had those elk horns in the back of my truck, and people are like, what? They would look at me all weird. And then a lot of in the Midwest, people are like, oh, where'd you get that elk? Blah, blah, blah. And I got to Florida, people are like, that stinks. What is that? Don't worry about it. It's just a replica.
Yeah. So the Florida folks super just not used to the big game, like the elk hunting, anything like that?
Down here, you'll get you have hunters, very small population, a lot more fishermen. They want to hunt, but they just don't know how or where to go, because I'm 2 hours from hunting. You can hunt. Mm-hmm. My hunting lease that we have here is about 2 hours away. But and then you have a lot of just people that look, when I tell them I'm a hunter, or I meet a girl, or something that's like, wait, you hunt? I'm like, yep. I don't hide it at all. I won't ever be that guy, but it's a lot of people look at me weird or try to don't understand. And I tell, and a lot of people are just so uneducated when it comes to it, because oh my gosh, I can't believe you do this, and they have leather purses, and they don't realize how many about the conservation, and they don't do anything towards it, and we're the only people that actually do anything for conservation, and how many deer government has to kill a year, and how it's just you start to tell these people down here, and they're like, oh wow, okay, I didn't know that, okay, it makes sense now. I'm not going to do it, but I'm not going to bash you for doing it now. And I've changed a lot of people down here that just didn't know, that are okay with it, but they would never, like I said, they would never do it, but they kind of are open up to it.
They say it's a very small percentage of the population that hunts, and it's, equally as small of a percentage of the population that is just vehemently anti-hunting, you'll never change their mind. But that majority of the population that's in the middle, that's the swing right there. That's how, however we can sway those hearts and minds, that's what's going to really affect, especially access to public lands and hunting and all of that. And so, they may never go out and hunt. They may be more than happy to sit and, get their McDonald's or their steaks from Walmart or whatever it is. But as long as you can show them that positive side of hunting, they're not going to look at it and be like, okay, well, I need to remove this from society. They're going to be like, okay, oh, that's right. That one guy was really cool. You know what? I understand that. And I'm going to, whatever, vote yes. I'm going to vote to keep this right for people.
That's the thing. The people that are on the fence, and I feel like there's so many people in South Florida that are on that fence that are, there's antis, but then there's the people that just aren't. They don't care either way, and they just don't, because they don't know. And if it comes to a vote or something, they're just going to be like, I don't care what's going to sway their vote. But if we can just educate them, and the amount of money that we put into conservation and the outdoors and making sure we do keep these herds, it's then they might just be like, okay, yeah, I'd go for that. And I think as hunters, we just need to do a better job at educating those people when we're out, and just instead of just give them the cold shoulder or whatever. Like, maybe just sit down and educate them just for a minute if we can. And because I've done it, I've changed a lot of people's minds down here just by, that little bit of conversation and just talking and being open with them and telling them exactly how I feel and not pushing it on them, but kind of like hearing what they have to say, and then kind of like, okay, well, here's my rebuttal or whatever you want to say towards that. And then 90% of the time they're like, makes sense. All right, well, I get it now,
Yeah. Well, it's we're always walking a fence. It only is going to take us one generation or whatever. It doesn't take that long for us to lose a lot of what we love to do. So yeah, got to work to protect it, and got to be stand up with a lot of the people that we may initially not want to have those conversations with. I know I get lazy at times. Somebody will ask me, what I'm doing, or ask me questions about it, and I'll just want to kind of play it off and move to a new topic. But then I have to remind myself, it's my responsibility to educate these people and to show them the positive side of it also.
Yeah, exactly. And how many people I've actually, taken, or people that reach out to me are like, man, I never really wanted to hunt, but I see what you're doing and I want to go now. Or girls that are like, hey, I'm not into, like, I don't really want to kill anything, but I want to learn to shoot a bow, or it looks fun, or I want to do these things. And so we just need to get more people out there. And if we get the 100 people just shooting a bow, they realize, they may not want to kill anything, they may not hunt, but they might tell their friends about, hey, shooting a bow is really fun, and this is why they do it, and this is, because we're with them, and then we educate them, and then they educate their friends, and then it's just like a snowball effect. Maybe, more people get in the outdoors. Like, more girls now are getting involved, which is awesome. There's a fine line between the girls that guns up and that actually hunt. Like, and I know a few that are really awesome and really good hunters and fisherwomen. And, it's just really cool to see the growth in the outdoor industry,
Absolutely. And so, speaking of getting people out into the outdoors, what advice would you have for someone that's just getting into hunting? They want to get into it. Maybe they live in the city, but they feel a little bit intimidated, a little bit overwhelmed. They're just like, I want to do this, but there's so much. What advice or words of wisdom might you have for that person?
I'm in a situation where I'm a little bit different than the average. It's a little, someone would say, well, you grew up in the country, kind of, or your family's from the country. Mine's from someone who's born and raised in the city, and their families have always been in the city, and they want to get into it and they don't know how. First just become educated in the outdoors, figure out, how to start getting better with a bow or whatever. And then there's so many lease programs and public land. Just get, hunters are willing to share information, not their secret spots in like an elk hunt, but like public land. Like, we have a quota hunt here that you can put in for OK Slough turkey hunting, awesome Osceolas. Anybody that would ever say, hey, where can I want to go turkey hunting? I will show them where to go. There's this Mustang Loop area. There's all these things. And hunters, dude, if you're like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, I want to get involved, how do I do it? Reach out to a hunter. They're gonna help. Like, I help. Whoever, anyone sends me a message, a DM or an email or anything, I'm always the first to give them as much information as I possibly can. So I think the first thing is, don't be scared to reach out. Don't be scared to call people about hunting properties or whatever. There's a lot of public, and you need to start small. I've gotten a lot of guys that have just been fishermen into the hunting world, and they've realized, oh, wow, I can trade out some hunting, figure out something. If you're doing something that's cool that you may take for granted, somebody in the Midwest, no one, like, an alligator is a lizard to me. Alligator is a prehistoric dinosaur to somebody else that would love to do it. So, figure out something. And then if you're into hunting in the city and you want to be in the outdoor industry, you got to find a niche, become good at it, and just keep pushing. Like, do what we said and go to trade shows, network, to just mingle, with hunters and fishermen.
Well, if you want to get into the outdoors, if you're new at this, and like whether or not you want to be in the outdoor industry, you can't be shy about it. Like you really have to be willing to reach out to people and talk to them. I mean, there's just no other way around it. If you're going to be shy and timid about it the whole time, you're not going to get anywhere. You're really not.
Oh, exactly. And I get it all. It's people ask me, dude, can I go hunting with you? Can I go fishing with you? And all this. And it's not, I feel bad because I can't take, I mean, my list is extremely long about people that ask and want to go and do these kind of things. And I don't even get to take my best friends because I'm at a point now where I have to go with myself or go with people in the industry because I got to get Garmin stuff and Realtree stuff and Oakley stuff and Salt Armor stuff. And when I'm fishing, I got to get my rod sponsor stuff and like all these things. So it's not like I haven't gone on a fishing trip or a hunting trip where there's nothing involved where I almost have to work somehow,
Yeah.
Which people don't really get now. But I don't know. There's a lot of people out here that are doing that fun stuff and duck hunting and quotas, and you can put in. They just don't know. So you go to your local, like ours is FWC, myfwc.com, and look what you can put in for early teal season starting. And then there's awesome duck hunting properties. YouTube's huge. Watch YouTube videos. See what people are doing. A lot of these ducks you aren't having to call to because there's so many people out here that they're not coming to calls, but you can fly over, get in a good area, put some decoys out, and shoot some ducks that are flying over.
Yeah.
Definitely learn hunter safety first, obviously. But I think that's something too. People just don't know how to get the right stuff for hunting. What shotgun to get, what choke tube to get, or what bow, how many poundage, what kind of arrows, what broadheads. There's so much, and it can get overwhelming. But like Gritty Bowman podcast, they kind of like, they don't really talk to the average guy. They're more of a dude, this is how we do it. We're hardcore. We're shooting 80-pound bows with target. Like, they don't really give the knowledge to somebody that's just beginning, and because they give so much information, it's almost embarrassing. Because I listen to it, I'm like, whoa, I don't even know all that stuff. Like, holy cow, But watch right podcasts for you, and watch these hunting shows, and you just got to do a little bit of the homework, and then it'll all work itself out. If you want to hunt bad enough, you're going to find a way to do it.
Oh yeah.
Just
definitely.
Don't be scared to get out there and call. Like I've knocked on doors in the Midwest and, hey, does anyone lease your property? I noticed a lot of deer here. And a lot of times farmers are like, if someone's not leasing it, they're like, they don't like deer because they eat up all their crops. So if you say, hey, I'll pay you a little bit of money to be able to hunt this each year and get sold rights, they're all about it. They're going to have extra income, and then you're going to help protect the herd or help, manage the herd, which they're getting all their crops are getting eaten by deer. So don't be scared to knock on doors. If you're in the city, you can drive outside the city and go knock on someone's door that's got some farmland.
Yep.
Had success doing that.
Well, and you're talking a little bit about, trades too. And it can be more than just like, you have the option to be able to trade like a fishing trip or the Osceola hunts or the alligator hunts. It doesn't necessarily have to be a hunt for hunt trade either, to where it can be whatever your thing is, like, whatever your skill is, whatever. Like I do websites and mobile apps and things like that. And I'm far from the best expert, but it's something I know how to do. And I know that's a need for a lot of people in this industry. And so I've worked with some people doing, I'm working on a website right now, and, in exchange, rather than, try and charge money or whatever, in exchange, I get to go on a cool, Texas hog hunt and do stuff like that. And it doesn't have to be, like a hunt for hunt trade or a fishing trip for a hunt trade. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be that exact 1-to-1, find value that you can provide for someone.
Yep. The value. What somebody's always needing something or some kind of help or something. So it's exactly it. A website's huge. There's be times a website's it's important nowadays, and it has a huge value to it. And you can say, hey, I can help with your website, and then you build a relationship with that guy. And a lot of times it's like, then you find other things. It's like, hey, 1 year it might not be your website. It might be hey, I'll come and do some, hey, can I come help on the farm and do some work for a week or a weekend?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, and then you can come hunt. So then you just build that relationship that first time. Then it's always going to be there. You're always going to have that relationship with that guy unless they sell the property or something else happens. And it does. But yeah, find value that you have. And everybody has a value.
And it's always going to be like a win-win situation with that, because for me, like with this web stuff, the hunt I would get out of this is so much more valuable than, you know, whatever I would be able to charge for doing this small website. That, you know, the value of that is so worth so much more. And for that person, you know, they probably wouldn't be able to afford like a full, you know, redesign of their website and transferring over of all this content. But for them, it's easy enough for them to set up this hunt. They've already got a lot of the connections and they've got access to the land and stuff like that. So I think it's, you know, you look at it like that and you may think like, oh, yeah, but the value I provide isn't, you know, what I would charge isn't necessarily how much the hunt would cost or whatever. You know, you got to think about it like in terms of value, not dollar amounts and all of that stuff. It's
exactly. Yeah. It's not always going to be, you know, 1-to-1 or whatever, you know, there's going to be times where you're not, you feel like I've put a lot more into it, but I mean, the experience is worth it. And the knowledge to, you know, going and hunting for a week, you know, as much as I learn and as much experience and all that, I mean, that guy doesn't see that, but that's got a lot of value to it.
Absolutely.
You know, for me, being a hunter, it's like, you know, you can go pay somebody to go hunt at a guided deal, but you're not really learning much on a guided hunt. You know, you go and sit in a stand that he put you in, which, you know, it's good for beginners sometimes, you know, if you don't know exactly what to look for, and that could be a whole nother podcast on, you know, how to set up a hunting property. But, you know, going up, sitting in a stand, you have no say, and he's like, all right, here's the deer that may show up. You're spending $5,000 to go just sit in a stand and be a puppet on a string kind of. You still have to do the work and shooting the buck when it comes in and having a fever, obviously, but you don't learn as much as going and setting up a property, going up and setting your own cameras up, going and setting up your property, doing the work that it takes. And like, I lease this ground and I had to put in my own food plots and set up my own stands and learn on the whole property and stuff like that. But when you barter stuff with other people that aren't really in hunters, you get to kind of like, all right, hey, I'm going to go glass this guy's stuff. Okay, here's a trail. I'm going to set up on a trail. Okay, you know what? That was a bad idea. The deer aren't coming from here. They're coming from over here, so I need to get on the other side of the field. This is more of an evening sit. This is a staging. You know, this is pinch points and just all that kind of stuff. So you just learn so much on hunting, you know, so many different properties instead of just like being with an outfitter, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't put a value on that. So you can't be 1-to-1. You know, sometimes you're going to luck out and you're going to get way more. Like, I feel when a guy comes and fishes with me, I'm just taking them fishing off the stuff I learned. It's a value to them that it's incredible, but I'm like, oh dude, I'm getting this deal. But to them,
you're both sitting there talking to your buddies like, hey, I got this guy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, one time my buddy King, the first bull elk I ever killed was on a private ranch. We hunted hard, real hard for this. I learned a lot, and I took him fishing for like 5 straight days. And I got to kill a bull elk, 330-inch bull, like with my bow, my first one. Like, so I only had to take him fishing. I got to kill a whole world-class bull. Like, okay, he won, or I feel like I won that deal, you know. But for him, he's like, dude, I got this, and I did this, and I caught this, and I had this food, and it's just the experience, and you can't put the value on it for the other person, you know. So, yeah, just figure out what you can offer somebody. And I'll ask, and just to say, hey, I got this. Would you barter? Worst thing I say is no.
Yep.
Just always learn. Always keep learning no matter what. That's all you know.
Absolutely.
I'm definitely the guy who's not the best hunter in the world. I don't claim to be. I don't claim to be the best shot. I don't claim to be the best hunter, but I claim that I'm always going to learn. I'm like a sponge in the woods, and I learn from everybody that I encounter. Everybody's got an experience that I haven't had before, and I want to learn it, and I want to listen, and I want to get better.
So if people, you're still working on the website, right? But if people wanted to find you online, follow what you're doing, where's the best place to check all that out?
I'd say my Instagram right now. I'm kind of do the stories, and I pretty much posting every day and the stuff that I'm doing right now. My Instagram's my strongest source, and it's Brett BRETT _ Cannon CANNON.
All right, I'll make sure to post up a link to that on our show notes page. That's going to be livingcountryinthecity.com/39 for episode 39.
Awesome.
Yeah. So any final closing words before we shut her down?
Oh man, thanks for having me, man. Hopefully I can. This is my first podcast too, so I don't really know if I have or not, but hopefully I can. If one person gets one bit of information off this, that's a success for me, and if I get one message from it, like, hey man, I really enjoyed, or I like I don't know, anything that I can do to help one person, that's a home run for me. So I'm thankful for the opportunity to maybe reach out to somebody and help somebody. No,
that's great. And, I'm certainly glad to have you on. Thank you so much for sharing your time, man.
Thanks. You too, man. Have a good one.
All right, y'all, that'll do it for episode 39 of Living Country in the City. Make sure y'all give Brett a follow. You can find all of those links along with everything we talked about on the show notes page at livingcountryinthecity.com/39. Keep tuning in and make sure you're subscribed, and don't forget to leave that rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher. But until next time, keep it country, y'all.
Thank y'all for listening to Living Country in the City. Get show notes and check out the blog, product reviews, events, and more at livingcountryinthecity.com.